Good morning. Welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Wednesday, July 15th. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps, which are trading higher. We're up about 0.1%, 0.11%. Positive, realistically, the yesterday's CPI report came in softer than expected. That's very positive for the markets. And, let's face it, the corporate earnings season, with the exception of IBM, is off to a strong start. Overnight or early this morning, the U.S. launched another round of airstrikes against Iran. That's pushing oil prices higher. Geopolitical, uncertainty remains a factor here. I'm more concerned about some of these stocks that did some earnings warnings, like IBM. That's got me a little bit of concern for the upcoming earnings season. But generally, I'm positive. The banks came in nice, and next week we get tech coming in, so we got to keep an eye out for that. On the economic calendar today, it's all about the PPI. The PPI and the Beige Book. PPI is coming out before the bell. The Beige Book's coming out later this afternoon. Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, he's going to be testifying again today at the Senate Banking Committee. Yesterday he was on Capitol Hill testifying in front of Congress. He remains very cautious. Continues to say he's going to whip inflation. He's got a plan. He's going to change the calculation of how we calculate inflation. That's going to basically assure him of being able to say, we got lower inflation moving forward. It doesn't mean that inflation is in check. It just means he's changing the calculation. In corporate news, one of the interesting things that came out late last night was OpenAI is planning to release a home speaker. Google has one, Amazon has one. This could be interesting. OpenAI's home speaker. The production hasn't started yet, I don't believe. What else we got? Google. European regulators are looking to announce penalties on Alphabet under its DSA Act. Novo Nordisk, NVO. Their oral Wegovy pill, it's really gaining market share, and that pill is delivering greater weight loss results than previously expected. So, keep an eye on Novo Nordisk. That stock could start to show some gains. On the earnings front, ASML, BlackRock, PNC, they're all trading higher after earnings results. Johnson & Johnson, that is showing some weakness this morning. Looking ahead to tomorrow morning, we got Taiwan Semiconductor coming out, TSM. We got United Healthcare, UNH. We got GE Aerospace, GE. We got Abbott Labs, ABT, and State Street, STT, all scheduled to report tomorrow morning. Okay, now we're turning it over, and we're going to be looking at the global markets, and we're going to start off in Europe by looking at Germany. And listen, the DAX is lower by 142 points. That's only 100. That's 0.57%. It was down, about 200 points, so it's coming back a little bit. We're seeing some weakness in technology, retail, and chemical stocks. The FTSE is lower by 0.13%. Mining shares are, showing some weakness. The CAC in Paris is down 0.08%. Industrial and financial stocks are showing some gains, are trading weaker, but luxury stocks are showing gains, so that's kind of offsetting that weakness. Moving over to Asia last night. Asia, we did see generally positive action. The Nikkei jumped 1,000 points, 1,008 points, or 1.49% with gains in tech and AI stocks. You look at the Hong Kong, the Hang Seng, which finished up 1.4%, supported by healthcare and biotech stocks. China, on the other hand, fell 0.29%. Their second quarter GDP came in at 4.3%, which is like the weakest since 2022. So, it's pulled back a little bit, but I'm not too concerned over the GDP weakness. Mainly because we've had such elevated oil prices over the last quarter. Then we're taking a look at oil, and oil is continuing to show gains. You got WTI at $79.65 a barrel. You got Brent at $85.02 a barrel. Another round of airstrikes against Iran. Trump reinstated the naval blockade on the Iranian ports. Not good for Iran. And then there was the API data that came in last night that showed a draw of 564,000 barrels for last week. EIA data is out later this morning. Now we're taking a look at earnings. Johnson & Johnson came in with a pretty decent report, I will say. You look at Johnson & Johnson, it's trading lower this morning, but They beat by 5 cents on higher revenue. You look at BLK, BlackRock. BLK BlackRock, they also delivered a nice beat. What did they beat by? They beat by $1.24 on higher revenue. PNC Bank, they beat by 40 cents. They did that on higher revenue. Those two stocks are trading higher this morning. Upcoming before the bell tomorrow, Taiwan Semiconductor, UNH, United Healthcare, GE Aerospace, Abbott Labs, ABT, and State Street, STT are all scheduled to report. In terms of economic reports, you get the PPI report coming out at 8:30 a.m., as well as the Empire State Manufacturing Index. Then at 10:30 a.m., we get the EIA oil inventory report, and then at 2 p.m., the Beige Book. In terms of Fed speak, at 8:45 a.m., we're going to be hearing from New York Fed Bank President John Williams. At 10 a.m., we're going to get Kevin Warsh, who's testifying in front of the Senate Banking Committee. At 1 p.m., we're going to hear from Fed Governor Lisa Cook. And then at 6:30 p.m. tonight, we're going to hear from St. Louis Fed Bank President Alberto Mulsam. In terms of FANG stocks this morning, Apple's trading higher this morning, which is nice to see. Amazon's, also showing gains. But Google's the interesting one. I mean, they're about to get hit with the EU fines for violating its DSA Act. I mean, the EU court is backing rules to scrap the $1.7 billion antitrust fine, though. So we got to keep an eye on that. Meta workers are accusing of the company of using AI to conduct discriminatory layoffs. Netflix earnings are out tomorrow after the bell. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, Amazon's Leo, which is their space satellite program. They're going to provide satellite internet for South Africa's largest internet provider. IBM announced new power server, AI operations, software, and development tools. Stock had its worst day, ever, really, yesterday after that earnings announcement. Microsoft OpenAI stepping into the home hardware with smart speakers under development. In terms of merger news, there's some chatter around PayPal this morning, PYPL. In terms of guidance news, Johnson & Johnson raised their full-year EPS to $11.60, $11.75. Street estimate was $11.58. That's positive. In terms of buyback news, Morgan Stanley reauthorized up to 20 billion share repurchasing. Okay, it's kind of already out there. All right, let's move on and let's talk about today's pick of the day. And, I got to go with State Street, ticker STT, Sam Tom Tom. The fact of the matter is earnings are out tomorrow morning. The EPS is $3.30. Expected move is 5.42%, which is about $9. Stock, is trading higher this morning. But, I still think we're going to see some opportunity here. I mean, you look at yesterday's call volume, 433 calls versus 275 puts. Open interest is 12,640 versus 8,993, both positive. Major brokers, they are raising price targets on the stock. That's positive. But for me, I want to get in at a discount. I'm thinking 182.75. That would mean the stock has to turn a little bit negative today. But if I can get in at 182.75, I think it'll be an easy way to get that 1%. But that's my pick of the day. State Street, STT, Sam Tom Tom. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the stocks that are hitting the tape this morning with some key news items hitting. Let's see what we got here. KTOS opens up advanced military facility in Pennsylvania. ELV down 6% in the pre-market after its Q2 results. Morgan Stanley's profit rise 58% on trading. PayPal up 20% on reports Stripe and Advent made a $53 billion bid. ASML had a positive report as well, trading higher. CVS reached a global FTC settlement. They want to advance that affordable prescription drug pricing deal. YUM, these guys own Taco Bell, and Taco Bell's on watch due to that food outbreak that's going on. That's all I'm seeing this morning. Okay, now we're going to be talking about yesterday's pick of the day, which was Johnson & Johnson, ticker JNJ. Stock's trading lower this morning. The stock opened yesterday up at 255.53, fell to 252.14, and closed at 253.85. I was in and out of this thing 3 times yesterday making money. The earnings were positive, but it's trading down hard this morning. Wouldn't be shocked if it turns. So just like Fastenal, FAST did yesterday. I mean, Fastenal actually finished today higher. After showing some weakness after the initial earnings result. But we saw that with a lot of the earnings. But Johnson & Johnson, I can't say it was a win. I did make money in it multiple times yesterday. It was a great trading stock. But, right now we're seeing weakness, even though the report was pretty good. The report was pretty good. But that concludes today's Trade Talk podcast. You want to learn more about NewsWare, go to www.newsware.com. And traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green.